Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Frank, and I'll be leading our webinar today. Today, we will be introducing the new online version of Lutheran Service Builder. I'm excited to launch this with you today and help you get started. I know you all are excited. You've been waiting for this for many years. So let's go ahead and dig in. A little bit about myself first. I'm the senior manager of the church supplies division of Concordia Publishing House. Included with that is our church software and also music. And so this Lutheran Service Builder presentation kind of ties right into both of those. Now, I'm much more on the software side than the music side, so bear with me if there's any of those music questions that come up. I've been with our team here at Concordia Publishing House for around 11 years, and I've been with the Lutheran Service Builder team for about a little over two, thereabouts. So I'm still fairly new, probably compared to many of you, to Lutheran Service Builder. So I am by no means the absolute expert because I didn't write the software, but I work with the experts. So that's why I'm here presenting today. You can reach out to me on my email or through my phone number. I always like to look over here to make sure I forward all my calls to voicemail. Normally that's not the case. So you can call me at my office number at any time. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First off, there we go. I'm planning about 50 minutes for presentation. Now, we did the same presentation on Monday. I went about 10 minutes over that. So I used up the whole Q&A time during the hour. We did stay late for it, but I do plan to spend those last 10 minutes taking question and answers. Now, I do ask that you ask questions throughout. To ask a question, you'll put that in the chat, and we'll try that out in a few moments here. But please don't wait till the very end to ask your question because I may not get to it if we have too many. So ask them while you think about it. And we've got one of our support technicians, Tim, on the line. He'll be answering questions via the chat. So Tim's audio will be muted, your audio will be muted, so you won't be able to speak out loud. I'm going to take my headphones off so I'm not distracted by any noise that comes across there. But if you start to hear something, put it in the chat and let me know. Now, we are recording this, and we will be sharing that recording either later on today or tomorrow. If you are one of those watching the recording, thanks for watching after the fact. I'm sorry you couldn't join live. All you're going to miss out on is the live Q&A. Otherwise, everything else will be fine. So we've got a really large group here live, which I know not everybody was able to get signed up in time, so that's why we have the recording. All right, now I want to make a few assumptions. First off, I always make assumptions about people attending. It helps me put together the presentation. But first off, I am assuming you are an active Lutheran Service Builder user. I'm assuming that because those are the only people we invited. It's only for current customers right now. We are launching the new online Lutheran Service Builder later on this summer. This is our early release. Now, the product is almost 100% complete, but we have so many current subscribers to Lutheran Service Builder, we wanted to give you all the first chance at it. So that's who I'm assuming is here today. I'm also assuming that you already know the core concepts of Lutheran Service Builder 2. If you are a brand new user to that, even if your church has been using it for a while, there's going to be a lot of things that might be over your head here. We're going to talk about the core differences, but we're not going to go step by step through how to use it. We'll have those webinars later on. This is all about how to get onto the new version and what's going to be included in that. I'm also assuming you're not a field tester. We had about 150 churches field testing this new online version. If you are a field tester, you are certainly welcome here, but you're going to know a lot of this already, and so that's why I'm assuming you're not. But if you are, feel free to stay on the line and listen. I'm sure you'll gain some stuff. You're just not starting at ground zero like everybody else is. So now is the opportunity to tell me about yourself. First off, I'd love to have you test the chat and just put in your name and where you're watching from. So that'll allow me to see who is here and allow me to make sure you know where to ask questions. If you don't know where to do that, then this is the chance for you to look around and figure out where it is. So take a second to do that. The next thing I'm going to ask is through a poll question, and this is just to make sure things come across in a consistent format. Very good, everybody's putting in there. Wow, we've got a bunch here. We've got Sandy and Robin and Larry and Kathy and Keith and John and Tim and Linda and Jonathan and Robin. I think I missed a bunch at the start. Manita, Henry, Mike, Roger, Nancy, Levi. Fantastic. We've got just a huge group here. So thanks so much for being here today. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and put this poll up here. This will help me as well find out what type of people we have here based on the role in your role in your church. So I'm going to launch this question. All right, let's make sure that goes up. Please select the role that the option that most closely describes your primary role. I know a lot of you wear many hats at the church. Just the one that you would put on your business card, because I'm sure that many of you will have tasks in the church that you wouldn't put in there. So this should pop up on the screen. Go ahead and put in, select the option that best describes you. And yep, there's William put in there. Ordained pastor, also music minister, also secretary. All of those roles. I know, especially at smaller congregations, you wear many hats. So good, we've got just about everybody there. And let me make sure, I think I close that, and I think I can share those results with you here as well. There you go. So we've got mostly administrators and ordained pastors as our group here. We've got some church musicians, no called workers here other than pastors or church musicians, and then some others. So very good. Thanks so much for filling that out and letting me know. Now we'll move forward with the outline for today. All right. So first off, we're going to talk about the updated license agreement. We're not going to spend too much time, but I wanted to clarify a few things because we've had some questions about that. Then we're going to spend the bulk of our time going through how to convert from Lutheran Service Builder 2 to the new online version. That, again, will be most of our presentation. There's a lot to cover there. We won't hit on everything that's new, but all the main points. Actually, I'm jumping ahead. That's the second part. How to convert. We're going to go through that process of getting started, and then what has changed and what hasn't. That's the bulk of it. See, I'm jumping ahead of myself already. I'm so worried about spending too much time at the front end. All right, finally, we're going to get through those question and answers. I'm really hoping to leave about 10 minutes at the end for that. So let's dig into that updated license agreement. This is the part that everybody gets really excited about because legal terms are always everyone's favorite spot. Just kidding on that. All right, so the updated license agreement. You may first ask, why do we need to update that license agreement? You already agreed to one when you started with Lutheran Service Builder. Well, there's a lot of changes to it. I shouldn't say a lot. There's some changes to it because now it's an online product and not an installed product. So that changed some of the language. There's also some information in there related to GDPR, which in your world probably wasn't a big deal unless you're in the European Union. But for anybody who deals with communications to potentially people in the EU, there's a lot. And so we just call it GDPR around here. So I don't always remember what the name is. It is the General Data Protection Regulation. So you'll see some stuff in there about the European Union that might seem a little weird. That's what that's for. One of the big things, and it's truly a benefit for you, is that the licenses, both the liturgy and the hymn licenses, now include streaming and podcast. Now, the liturgy license just comes standard with any subscription to Lutheran Service Builder, so that applies to all of you. And then the hymn license is a separate subscription, and that applies to most of you. Not all of you have that, but the vast majority do. What that means now is that anything that is covered under those two licenses, so just about the entire Lutheran Service Book between those two licenses, is now available for you to stream online, either through social media like Facebook or YouTube, or to record it and put it up, and we call it podcast because that's how a lot of people do it. It may just be a recorded video that you put on your website. There's a few exceptions in Lutheran Service Book, and those are outlined in the agreement. One of the main exceptions, and I saw some people coming through who are in Canada, it is for outside the U.S. Our copyright licenses are only available within the U.S. for streaming. So that is a challenge for many of those hymns that are in there. You'll see that outlined in there. So a lot of them are available outside the U.S., but you'll see in there that some of them are just not. And so that really affects actually all customers because streaming puts it out there. So there is some challenges with that, but that's all outlined in your agreement. And I think it's like less than 10 hymns that are included in that, or that are excluded from that, I should say. So that's a really great benefit for everybody there. So all of that's in the new license agreement. The big thing for us, and it'll eventually work out to your advantage, is that we also need to align subscription dates. And so we're doing that at this time. So some of you might have 3 licenses, the Builder, the Hymn license, and the Concordia Organist, and they may all start at different times. So you're getting different invoices at different times during the year. While we're talking to everybody, getting them on the new version, we're going to align those so that they all start and end at the same time. So for some of you, that might mean that we're going to shorten up a subscription from a 12-month to 11 or 10-month subscription, and so we'll give you a credit. And for some of you, we may be extending one from a 12-month to a 13 or 14-month and having an additional prorated fee. Both of those are prorated. Some may be prorated credits, some may be prorated invoices. So you'll see that as we get that agreement in place. That'll be part of it. But the agreement will really just spell out your renewal fee and what that means, how much you'll owe at the renewal time frame. There is no price increase that comes with moving to the online version, and in fact at renewal you won't have a price increase either. The next projected price increase will be coming late 2019, so that's more than a year away. So all renewals will fall within that current pricing structure. All right, so the way that it'll work is you'll set up a time with the software consultant. They'll go through these details with you. They'll work with our customer service team who will update the subscriptions to align them. All those details will be shared with you in the license agreement that'll go out electronically. You'll be able to forward that to the appropriate person who needs to sign if that's not you. You'll be able to print a copy of that, which includes all those renewal details that I mentioned. And then you'll be ready to go. And that's when you can start converting from Lutheran Service Builder 2. And that's the next big part of our presentation. So you'll get all these, after you sign the agreement, we're going to send you an email with all these details. So I'm going to go through them rather quickly, but it might help to have this recorded and available for you. So let me switch over to Lutheran Service Builder 2. And we'll go to the home screen. I was already jumping ahead when I was practicing. Okay, good. You can see that. If you can't see it or can't hear what I'm saying, go ahead and put a note in the chat. But I think we're in good shape right now based on my quick look at the questions. All right. So what you're going to do first is update to the latest version. And this is even more current than Monday because we now have a 2.3.9. We found out some things that had to be updated. And so some of what we put out said 2.3.8. Now we're at 2.3.9. I'll show you how that works. So if you're at your computer, you can follow along with me. This will be the first step. You don't need the license agreement to do this. Just go to Tools and check for updates. And that should pull up. It did a little while ago when I was testing it. Let me go back there. There we go. All right. Wow, I hope you don't see. Yeah, that's, I have too much on my screen right now. There's that. Sorry about that. There, you should see this. This is the updater, the CPH software updater. It says Lutheran Service Builder 2, version 2.9 or 2.3.9. You can download that and install it, and we'll install it later because that's going to close it and reopen it. But it's that simple. Get to the latest version. That'll help you as we go to the next step. Now, once you get that license agreement signed, our software consultant will turn on access for the online version, and then you can do this next step. You can't do this next step yet. It won't work for you. You'll go to Tools, try the next version of Builder, and that'll ask you to create an account. Now, you can either have an existing account if you are a field tester, or create a new account, or you can use our lutherancalendar.org accounts. So for those of you who are not familiar, lutherancalendar.org is a free website with the church year calendar where you can see all the propers for each day. Now, last fall, we introduced service planning, which allows you to click Plan the Service, sign in, and begin adding hymns and readings and notes to that service. Well, this is all just a precursor to Lutheran Service Builder 2. So if you already have that going, you can use those credentials. If you want to get a head start, you can go create a lutherancalendar.org account today. Otherwise, you can just create it at the time of starting. So again, you have to wait for the software consultant to turn on your access, which comes after the license agreement. but we'll go ahead and I will sign in there. The next step is to upload your database. And that will, there's an upload button, you click that, it'll send your database to the cloud, to the new online Lutheran Service Builder. All of your things come with it, whether that's your services or your custom liturgies or your My Worship resources. All of that gets uploaded, and so you can have that in the new version. So that's why we're doing this through Lutheran Service Builder 2, so you bring all of your data with you. That's the important part. And then after you do that, I'm going to just click skip upload. You can upload multiple times. If you upload once and then do some more things in 2 and then want to bring that in, you can do that multiple times. It won't overwrite anything that you've updated in the new version. It'll just bring in your updates from 2. All right, so then it's going to it'll send you to your default web browser and take you to the new online Lutheran Service Builder, where you are signed in automatically and you can start using it. And this is what it looks like. It looks very similar to Lutheran Calendar, like I told you, except that was a precursor to it. So we'll come back to this in just a moment. I know that's what everybody's waiting for. All right, so let me walk through those steps real quickly. How to convert. You will update to the latest version. You click try the next version of Builder, log in or create credentials, upload your database. There we go. Then the next step is to become familiar with the new interface. You can invite new users. I'll show you how to do that in a bit. You can review the imported information, make sure you know where everything came, everything from your old database is in there. And then you can start building services. And really, if you wanted to skip those first 3 steps, you could try start building services. Sometimes it's good to review how everything or become familiar with the new interface, but that's all right. So let's move into the real meat of the presentation today. What has changed and what has not? So there's 5 key areas that we'll be getting into and what's changed. But first, let's talk about what has not changed. So first off, your data. I mentioned you'll upload that. All of that information will be there. Services, formats, custom elements, you name it, it's being brought in. That was the big first initial part of development, was to make sure that comes in seamlessly. And our team has done a fantastic job with that and has tested about 1,000 databases with it. Thank you to all of you who lent your database to us to test that and make sure it came across right. Your efforts are being rewarded now. So it's still all based on Lutheran Service Book. None of the information on there related to service books has changed unless we've fixed typos or errors or little mistakes that you've sent to us over the years. There have been updates to make it better and more accurate, but nothing major has changed with the content other than to improve it. So we are not bringing in other hymnals because of copyrights or because many of the hymns from TLH or LW, the Lutheran Hymnal or Lutheran Worship, are in Lutheran Service Book. That may be something we consider later on. It's a big project with minimal reward because there's so much already in Lutheran Service Book. But thank you for your feedback on that. I know a lot of people are looking for that. We may consider that in the future. But right now, everything's still based on Lutheran Service Book. And most of the functionality is in the software. So what you're used to being in there may be a little bit different. It may look a little different. You may go a different route to get there, but it's all there. Just about everything in there that was useful is still in here. There's a few things like the service times, which were only there for reference. They didn't do anything. You can put those in notes now. There's not a specific place for that, but pretty much everything else is there. All right, so what has changed? Well, first off, it's now online, and we're going to talk about what that means. Obviously, that's the big difference. We're going to get into that in a few minutes. Service planning, the way you go about planning your services has changed quite a bit. Bulletin and presentation views, how you go about building your bulletin and your presentations, kind of the core part of the software. That's changed rather significantly, and definitely for the better. We'll show you how that works. Your bulletin and presentation formats, what they look like, the styles, what shows up in a bulletin versus what shows up in a presentation. That experience has changed in terms of how you do it, even though the end result really hasn't. And then the search and the previews have changed as well. And I'll show you how that works. That'll be the last thing we touch on. So what does moving online mean for Lutheran Service Builder? Well, first off, it means that it's multiple platforms. No longer is it just based on Windows. We're welcoming our Mac users. Now, I know many of you would use things like parallels and would tell us that's not a great experience. This, because it's online, can be basically anywhere with an internet connection. So whether you're Windows or a Mac or Linux, if you've got a browser on there, you can view the new Lutheran Service Builder, which also means it's multiple devices. So whether it's a laptop or a tablet or your mobile phone, you have access to Builder. Now, the experience will change depending on what device you're in. A phone is not really the best way to build a service, but it's very good to plan a service and put in the readings and that. Tablets, while maybe not ideal for typing, are good for rearranging and dragging and dropping. So try it out on your preferred devices. It's going to work out different in each case, but especially for laptops and tablets, you can do just about anything you need to do as sitting on a PC, so whatever your preference is. But yeah, now all people, regardless of your device, as long as you have a browser, can use Lutheran Service Builder. You can also invite others to work together, so there's now such things as logins. You didn't have that with the old version because it was just a database. Now, the credentials aren't really that different. There's owners and users, and really owners can set up the settings and invite users, but users get access to do everything with services. So this allows everybody to kind of keep their credentials their own. You don't have to share passwords, but you're not limited in your use. So I'll show you that in a moment. And then you get to leverage web functionality, meaning instant updates. You don't have to install updates anymore. When something is ready to be introduced, we introduce it, and you don't have to do anything. You can just take advantage of it. So let's take a look at the setup, the interface, how that works. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It's all responsive, so that means you can zoom in and still have a good experience. I have a rather high resolution monitor, and that's not good for presenting on webinars, but it's great for working. So normally I keep it at 100%, but because you're watching, I'm going to zoom in. So this is your initial view, and you can scroll through the calendar. If it's a past date, it'll be faded. If it's a future date, it'll be light. You can toggle between different locations if that's your case. Now, you can also log into different accounts if your email address is associated with different accounts. So I'm going to sign in here to Light of Christ Lutheran Church, which only has one location in it. Now, at the account setting level is where you can set things like locations, and at each location choose a lectionary. This is where you go to invite people. So you just click New Invitation, enter in the email address. We'll send an invitation where people can sign on. You also might have pending invitation, and that's one thing I didn't mention with Lutheran Service Builder too. If you have multiple databases, you can upload them to the same account, and in order to do that, though, you have to accept that person's request to join. So that's a little bit complicated to describe. It's really easy to do. You just go in here, click accept, and then that second database can be uploaded. All right, so there's that. When you click on a date, just like in Lutheran Service Builder 2, and we'll click on this upcoming Sunday, July 8th, the 7th Sunday after Pentecost, the first thing it's going to do is take you to the propers. So you can read the Old Testament reading, the Psalm, all of that fun stuff in there. Up at the top, though, is where it says plan this service. And when you click on that, then the service plan shows, and it shows the readings, and you can add readings. It shows a place for hymns, order of service, additional rights, notes, all of that. That's what we're going to get into next. So let me switch back to my PowerPoint, and we're going to begin talking service planning. So in Lutheran Service Builder 2, service planning looked kind of like this. You create a service, you plan the elements, and you choose the formats. So let's jump back to Service Builder 2 as a reminder. You go to Calendar. There's July 15th. Oops, I went to July 8th, Pentecost 7. And you click Plan the Service. Now, the first thing you do is you create a service. You choose your order of service. We'll just go with Divine Service Setting 1. Sorry, everything's going to go slow today because I've got a lot on my screen. Okay, let me close some of this. It's going slower than I expected. All right, Lutheran Service Builder 2, Divine Service Setting 1, we'll click OK. Now you plan the elements. So you would see everything listed out there. There's where you first enter in your hymn. So you figure out what your hymn of invocation would be and select that. And then from there, you go in and you view the formats. Now, if you want to change elements, you go back to the elements view. If you want to change how it looks, you do that here. Maybe you want to show the melody of that hymn. So you have these really three distinct steps, and you can't go back to step 1 without changing everything else. Now, in the new version of Lutheran Service Builder, you've kind of split that up. So now we have a higher level view where you can go in, and actually I'll go here. You go in and you plan your service first, and then you go to the very end where you prepare the bulletin presentation. And at the same time you're choosing elements, you're formatting them. So it really simplifies it, even if it's taking this process and kind of taking out the middle part. So here's where you go and you can plan your hymn. So if you click Add Hymn, your bar over here to the right will pop open. We'll add that hymn, Hymn of the Day. We'll go and we'll add this next one of Christ Who Called the 12 and Christ Ascended, Now in Glory. We'll choose our order of service. Divine Service Setting 1. Maybe we have a baptism that we're putting in here. That's good for a note. And then you can even put notes and say, you know, Pastor Williams is preaching. Now, none of that is really that necessary to plan a service if you're just going in to plan a service right now. You could just jump in and prepare the bulletin. Where this really becomes helpful is when you do this in bulk and say, okay, we did the 7th Sunday after Pentecost, now let's go to the 8th Sunday after Pentecost. And you could plan out weeks or months in advance. And we know that's how many users do it. And that's exactly why we put this in here, so that you could jump from one to the next without having to get into the nitty-gritty of planning that service or preparing the bulletin. So it is planning the service, but planning at a high level. I mean, planning the elements and everything in there. All right, so now we've got that in here. Now we go to prepare a bulletin, and that's in the top right, and underneath that is prepare presentation, and underneath that is prepare playlist. Now, playlist is with Concordia Organist. We'll talk about that in a bit. It's not quite ready, but almost. In fact, you may even see it yet today. It's in the final stages of testing. So, but let's get back to prepare bulletin. This pulls up, and it's already looking like you might print it out. And you just went from a high-level plan now all the way to actually looking at all the details. Now, it's a bit different than before. So before, when you were preparing elements or choosing the worship elements, you had an outline here. Now you have the whole thing. So like here, Hymn of Invocation. Now you selected hymns in your service plan, but you didn't say where they go. Or I should say, I didn't say where they go. That's the part you can't do. All you're doing is creating a list of hymns for your service plan. And those show up right at the top. Now, as you highlight one on the top, it shows down below. And as you highlight one down below, it shows up at the top. So you know that, oh, that's part of the service plan. So this is then where you can go select that hymn. It puts it in here, and now you can choose how to display it. So if I wanted to show the melody, I click melody. And if I want to take out stanzas, I click stanzas, and I'll take out stanza 3. And if I want to move it, I can move it around, even after I've formatted it. So you really have this flexibility to do what you need to do to get your service set up, and quickly go back and plan the next element. So now I can go down here and say, all right, well, I really want to tell people that this part is the confession of sins, and this part is the absolution. Now, maybe vicar is leading the service this week, and there's no communion, so pastor's not there, and vicar has to do the absolution. Well, we know vicars are not authorized to do the absolution, so that's where the selection box comes in. You'll see it in a few spots, this little blue line here with the arrow. This is the equivalent of the radio button in the element selector here in Lutheran Service Builder 2, absolution or declaration of grace. And so you could toggle between them here. In the new version, you click this drop down here, it'll show you your options. So we'll go ahead and select this one instead, put the caption on declaration of grace. So you are formatting and selecting elements at the same time, and it's showing you exactly what it'll look like. So that's quite a drastic change, but based on all the feedback we've received from customers, is a very desired change because it really cuts out some of those middle steps and saves you time. So going back here to the service plan, that's really the difference, is that you're planning those elements at the same time you're formatting and preparing everything together. So that takes us logically into the next thing, the bulletin presentation views. So like I was saying before, in Lutheran Service Builder 2, you select the elements, then choose the formats. Here you select elements and choose the formats in line. So we'll jump back in now. So we already started formatting some of them, but you can see here, like let's say Old Testament reading. All right, well, we've got Ezekiel 2, 1 through 5. That's what the lectionary says. Maybe you want to extend that a little bit and say Ezekiel, oops, I got to spell it right. Ezekiel 2, 1 through 7, and select that. Well, it just extended it all by just typing it and showing it there. And maybe I want to have a different response. So this is a template. This is a new feature that I think people are going to like. It gives you the basic templates. Maybe you don't want the response and you just click none, and it's just showing the reading. Maybe you want the, oh, that's my testing one. Maybe you want it with an introduction, and you can put that in there. The Old Testament reading is from Ezekiel chapter 2. And then this is the word Lord. You've got some options there, and that's based on what options are available in Lutheran Service Book. You could also choose just to say none, just give me the reference, and if you wanted to, Old Testament reading from Ezekiel, and over here you have your subcaptions. So your captions and subcaptions are in line. You just type them in like you would in Microsoft Word, except there's more power to it because you have those option selectors. So it's really quite different than before. And then if we go to insert, maybe you want to insert a prayer right here. It shows you all the places where you can insert. And if you have groups of elements that should not be, have things inserted in between them, it won't let you. So, you can't go right in the middle of the intro but you could go after it and select it and paste it in there. And then your search bar comes up on the right-hand side and you figure out which of the prayers you want to put in. So that's how you can insert things. You delete things by clicking delete and it's gone. You can also go in here and maybe you don't want the Kyrie this week. You hit delete on your keyboard and it's gone. You can always go back and add it in, or you could just click undo, and undo will put it back there for you. So it's very much like a word processor experience with the added impact of Builder right there. Now let's take a look at the presentation view. You can switch through your views by going up to the top and going to prepare presentation. Now this is also an inline experience. Now this takes a little bit longer to load, especially when you're presenting online because all of your system resources are trained. It should go much quicker for you when this is all you're doing and you don't have an audience watching you. But it pulls it all together, and in the same way that the bulletin view, you can select things as you're showing what it'll look like, you can do that here too. So maybe you say, okay, never mind, I'm not going to show the melody, I'm just going to show the text. Now it breaks it down and shows you just the text right there, and you can even change your hymn right in there and see how it'll look. And you can choose your stanzas from right here, and it'll remove that slide. And the ones that are indented are kind of grouped together. Usually hymns are all grouped together like that. And you can go through and see and say, okay, well, there you go. Oh, actually, here's the declaration of grace like before. I have that blue line and arrow again over on the left because when I drop down, I can switch it to absolution instead. And so that's your options. And it's shared between bulletin and presentation view, but you can toggle between them and display them differently. So again, cuts out that middle step, really puts it all in at the very end. It's not exactly like a word processor in that the formats don't change, just how it's displayed. And that's where we go into the next section. So bulletin and presentation formats are different. So in Lutheran Service Builder 2, you would create custom themes and custom formats. So let's take a quick look back at that as a reminder. So we'll go to the bulletin view, and you had themes and formats. And themes were unique for bulletins and presentations, as you would expect them to be. And then you could share formats, but you'd always have to pick which ones you were doing. And then you would have layouts. So let's say you want to do the large print theme, and we'll just do the text only format. And then we need to change that layout to be, okay, it's legal folded, that's good, because it's so large, you need a larger sheet of paper. And so you select those different options. Well, that's all fine and good. That worked well for 10 years, but that's a lot of extra clicking. And usually those things didn't change. And so as you were going from, your large print bulletin to your regular size, you're having to select these different things. Well, take us to today with the online Lutheran Service Builder, and now you have really just two options. You have bulletin formats and you have presentation formats. We've merged all those things down to those final two. So, and those are completely separate as well. So bulletin formats takes you, let's just go here to the default view from right now. This allows you to select, oops, I actually have to click on it, I can't just hover over it. This takes you to a single format that takes in your style, layout, and content all together. So you see over here, your style are things like, kind of like a style sheet on a website. You can select your headings and say, all right, let's bump that up a little bit. And maybe let's change the font to something else, maybe Times New Roman. And then your layout is your paper size. So we're going to do this to a legal size, and it's going to be landscape and folded. And I'm going to increase the top margin a little bit. You can do all that there. And then content is, I want headings to be visible or not. I want all my hymns to show the melody over the text, or when I can, show the setting. That doesn't always happen based on what's in the service book. So you can go through and create this single format that's a combination of all these things. Now, you may say, well, that's great, but now I have to go create all of these because I used to know what they were, and now they're all different because I need to merge them together. Don't worry, the importer did that for you, and that's why it's so important to upload your database. So you can see here that I've got several different formats. Well, really what it does is it takes a look at what you exported before, those combinations from Service Builder 2, tracks them, put your most common at the top so that you can see your previous combinations before. So UI default letter folded versus UI default legal folded. So those are in there. So take a look at what you have. You may need to do some tweaks, but it should be pretty much what you were expecting to be there. And there's probably exceptions down at the bottom, things that you only exported once. Maybe you're just testing something. That's where you can go and delete those. Or maybe you like it, but you need to change it. You can copy that. You can also create new formats based off of the defaults that are in there, which are default, creative worship, and large print. So it gives you kind of all those options to get your bulletin formats exactly how you want. And in the same way, presentation formats follow this. Oops, there we go. So we'll go to presentation formats. All right, so you've got basic or iron, which came from before, and then this one that I created, Light of Christ Pentecost. And let me go ahead and, yeah, I'll zoom out. Zooming in will mess with some of these views where it's trying to show you exactly what it's going to look like. So I just zoomed out for this because this is meant for my screen, which is obviously bigger than this section of it. But I added in here what we call our digital paraments from our creative worship packages. And then I made this custom theme or custom format that works for me. Now, if I wanted to change it with the church year, because the paraments change with the church year colors, I'll just copy this format and do one for Easter or Advent and change those colors appropriately. But it makes it really easy to then go and export it out when I'm in the presentation view or going back to bulletin formats in the bulletin view. Now there's a few little things that being a web app makes this a little difficult, like fonts. Fonts are generally based on what's installed on your computer. Now there's some default web fonts that come with every basic things like Arial and Times New Roman that are available for everybody to use. That's not what we control. What we allow you to do is type in the fonts that are on your computer, and we try to make some safe assumptions. So if you're on a Windows computer, it'll show the Windows fonts. If you're on a Mac, it'll show the default Mac fonts, but you can also go and type in whatever fonts you have on your computer. And as long as you type it in right, it will show up and you can select it and save it to a format. Now just know that if your coworker, maybe you're the pastor, has lots of fonts because you do some of the web design, and then you have a volunteer who uses a computer that's just has all the basic fonts on it. They may not get the same ones when they go to export it, but that's just one of the challenges of fonts on web products. So it's okay to display it. We could display any font that we wanted to, but you can only export what you have on the computer. So probably more details than you needed to know, but if something goes weird with fonts, that's what's going on, and our support team can help you with that too. All right, so going back to my slides here. In the bulletin presentation formats in Lutheran Service Builder 2, where to create a custom theme and custom formats. Now you create custom bulletin or presentation formats, one per each, and that combines all of those different options into one format. All right, so that's number 4 on our list of 5. The last one on here is the search and previews. I don't have any sub bullets for this. Let me just jump in and show you what that looks like. So you saw that a little bit before as we were selecting things in the bulletin presentation view. We'll give that a second to close. Anything with those large images takes a second. So let me go back here to prepare a bulletin. And when you're selecting, and I'll zoom in again so you guys can see better. When you're selecting something here like a hymn, you get this search that comes up over on the right-hand side. The preview for this is this little button over here, Show Hide Preview. It's not always necessary. After you do this a little while, you're going to know exactly what these are by their titles, but you click Show Hide Preview, and it kind of bumps in from the right and shows you the information that you're used to seeing about that worship element. So for example, here, the hymns, which are the most complex, you can click on the text or the melody or the information, and you can see that there. And what used to be up here in the right of it, with the little play preview, isn't really commonly used, so we put it down here under here for play. And when you click play, it'll start playing that sample, that MIDI sample. So my speakers aren't connected. I don't think you heard that. I didn't hear it, so I don't think you did, but maybe you did. Either way, on your computer, it'll work that way. But this is just how you preview things. The search is what has really changed. And what I want to show you, I'm going to go to full screen up here. If you go to settings, there is a search for a global search. And if you click on that, kind of fills your screen, gives you a little bit more space. The search is very different. You don't have any drop downs to select types. It's all based on hashtags, essentially, or search filters. Now, we teach you how to search when you just click in there. It says how to search. You can search any words, exact phrases, Bible reference, or hymn numbers. So if I just want to type in 594, hit enter, it'll show me 594. I can also clear this just by clicking on there. When I click in here, you can also filter by certain things. So maybe topic is Easter. When you have a good filter, it'll turn green. So I click enter. It'll show me results for hymns, a lot of Easter hymns. Yep, there's that. Now maybe I wanted to find prayers. So oops. Actually, I'm just going to type in prayers. See, I'm still learning all these search things. I picked something that I haven't normally done. So that's under a type. So if I go hashtag prayers, there we go. That's a good search. And it'll show me all those, all the prayers that are available. Let me clear this out again and show you that other thing. When you just click in here and click hashtag, that's what I was looking for, is the different types. See, it's going to take us all a little while to get used to because it's so different, but it's actually more powerful. So you could do hashtag hymns, enter, and that's like the browse of Lutheran Service Builder 2, where it shows all the hymns in their order. And then you could do something like author, and then in quotes, Martin Luther, and it shows all the hymns Martin Luther wrote. And then you can do topic. Let's do Reformation. I wonder if he wrote any about the Reformation. Reformation Day. Close that. Hey, he did. Surprisingly enough. There's one called A Mighty Fortress Is Our God. Now, chances are you don't need to go through all of those things to find A Mighty Fortress Is Our God, but you can, and it'll filter it down. Now, if you go into info on this tab here, you'll see all of these are blue. Those are links that when you click on it, it'll give you that search criteria for that. So topic, the church militant. If you click on Deuteronomy 33:27, it'll show you how to search for a Bible reference. All of this helps you learn how to search. So be sure to pay attention as you're going through. If you have trouble finding something, you can certainly have our support team help you search for it. But you're going to find that with a little bit of time and familiarity with these new tools, it's going to take far less clicks and keystrokes to find what you're looking for. All right, so let's go back here a second, and we'll go to this hymn. So we're on 656. From this global search, this master search view up at the top is where you can then go and just copy paste out. So let's go to melody, and you can choose stanzas, and you say, okay, only stanza 3. And now I'm going to export it as a Word document, and it'll just give me that one thing. Or, yep, there it goes. See, Word document there. It's going to pop over on my left-hand screen, I think. It's starting to, Word is going slow as well. But I want to show you, I want to open Word anyways to show you how the copy works. So bear with me. Again, Word is the one that's slow right now. I've already downloaded out of Builder. All right, here we go. Pull it over here. Can you see that? Good. So that copied it or saved it right as a file. Now I can also go here and say text, and I'm just going to choose one stanza. And then I can go copy that, go back into Word, we'll click enter a few times and just paste it in there. So that gives you a good way to get it out, because I know some of you don't build your services entirely in Builder. You have templates and you export elements, and that's fine. Doing it this way still will allow you to cover all your bases with copyrights and allow you to format it in the way you want, still choose stanzas, still get the melodies out. This is how you would do that. Now, I would encourage you to try out the service plan and the exporting, because that's going to save you even more time. But to each his own. I understand that sometimes the templates that you have are easier to do that way. So it's important to note that that copy and export of individual elements is only available in the global search, whereas everything else that we talked about, even the things like the hashtag hymns and viewing all of that, can be accessed with that side search. It's just not the copy export of individual elements. That is over here under the document. And this is where you go to choose your different bulletin formats from right in here. This is where you can go and change your order of service. This is where you go to export by docx or rich text or HTML if you want to put a copy of this on your website. The one thing that I did want to mention here, we'll cover this in the detailed training later on next month, but if you want to save a custom order of service, this is where you would do it here. You would click save a custom order of service, and we'll say webinar on here, save that, and this takes you into takes that into your My Worship resources, which are all up here. So this is where you have my liturgies, my hymns, my prayers. You can even create those templates like I was showing, that wraparound thing. So there's a lot of great stuff in there. We can't get into that because I'm almost out of time. So everything should be in there with a few minor exceptions, and this is what's coming soon. So Concordia Organist is almost done. Like I said, you may even see it today. I was talking with our developers earlier. They're trying to decide whether they should do it today or wait till next week, because they think everything's done. They made all the last fixes, so we're pretty sure we're going to release that soon, but that's coming real soon. MediaShout 6 export is closely on its heels, or on the heels of Concordia Organist. That is not ready to go yet, but it will be soon. We're going to support the latest version of MediaShout. Now, there's other applications. I think Pro Presenter is one of them that people have asked for. We won't have that ready, so PowerPoint and MediaShout 6. Pro Presenter has not been working with us well, not giving us the file specs that we need in order to get it in that format. So that's going to be a long time in coming because they're just not as easy to work with. So MediaShout 6 is available, and of course the PowerPoint will help you with that. You can import that into different things. Now, some other stuff that's coming soon that's kind of exciting, extra stanzas engraved to the melody. So if you have a long hymn with 7 or 8 stanzas, the way the service book does this puts 4 or 5 stanzas with a melody and the rest is text. Well, we've engraved those and we're adding those in slowly. So you'll see that coming out. So then you can have the melody for all of the different stanzas. And then improved sync with Creative Worship and Let Us Pray files. So right now, those files are still LSBX. You can bring those into Builder by going up here into the settings and import an LSBX file. And so you can still access Creative Worship and the Let Us Pray files like before. But we're going to come up with a better solution, and that won't be before our official launch. That'll be later on this year at the earliest. But our plan is to make it so that if you subscribe to Creative Worship, or which is not free, or if you subscribe to Let Us Pray, which is free, you could have those show up within Lutheran Service Builder. So we still got some work to do on that. It's still in the ideation phase. It's not in the development phase yet, but that's coming. But at least right now you can still bring in LSBX files, the specific file format for Lutheran Service Builder. You can bring that into the new version. So you're not limited in what you can do with those. It's the same process as before. Now you just have to upload the file as opposed to open the file. So real close. All right, so how do you get started with this? You're all excited. You've seen Lutheran Service Builder on the online version. You're ready to go. What's the first step? Well, the first step is to schedule a time with us. And I know that can be frustrating that you have to wait in line for your time. Like I mentioned, if you were in here earlier, I was talking before we started the webinar, we have thousands of churches that are using Lutheran Service Builder 2 and want to move online. And we have a limited number of personnel here who can help with that. My main concern, or our main concern, is on the support lines, that if we put thousands of customers on the new version, we're going to be flooded with thousands of phone calls asking simple questions or more complex questions, but that's going to be a bad experience. Plus, we need to get those license agreements updated, and we need to get the subscriptions aligned. So this is the link that you want to go to, and I'm going to go ahead and put this into the message for everybody. So let me send that right now. You can click on that and schedule a time. Now, last I looked, they were scheduled through the 11th. Our software consultants are the ones you'll be talking with. You won't be talking to me personally. Our software consultants will work through that agreement with you. It should be a 10 to 15-minute phone call max. They'll send the details to our customer service team, who will let us know, okay, dates are good, or if dates need to change. That's kind of the holdup right now, because we have a lot of people going through that, and our customer service team can only handle so many of these changes. So this process between the time you talk to when you get up and running may be up to 24 hours or so. Once we get the details back, let me put this in here because I have these bullets pointed. So you can, once we get the details back from customer service, our software consultants will send you the new license agreement, show you the information about aligned subscription dates. When they get it back from you, they'll turn on access and then send you the instructions on how to get started, what I covered at the beginning. And then you can get up and running. During that conversation, they'll also answer any question and answer. So that's how it's going to go. Just know that that time that you set up with the software consultants is not the exact time that you'll get access to the online version. So there could be as much as 24-hour delay. We've had a few that were even over that. So just be patient with us. We've got a lot of people who are going through this. But your best next step is to go and set up that time with the software consultants at this URL. And again, I put the link in the chat. So with that, let's get into our question and answers. I got 5 minutes left. I went a little over still, but I'll stick around for a little while after that. So while we do question and answers, let me go ahead and put up my contact details. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. And then I also have the software consultants on there too. Again, we've got thousands of people working with, so the responses are not immediate, but we're trying to get through them as much as possible. That's one of the reasons why we're doing these webinars, so we can get to a large group of people at one time. So I know Tim has been working to answer questions, but I think the questions are coming in faster than Tim could get to them. So let me go through some of the ones that were not answered. I'll start at the top and kind of work my way down. And I probably won't look at all the ones that weren't answered yet, or that were answered. So Larry asked right at the beginning, what happens if you have less than reliable internet service? Well, what I would recommend is give it a try, because even if it's less than reliable, you can still use it. And internet service is only getting better. I know it may not feel like that if you still have some of the bad service that's out there. Rural areas tend to have worse service, but give it a try. Otherwise, you can continue to use Lutheran Service Builder too. We are not ending support of that. We are just no longer going to be improving it. So you can continue to use it, continue to export, have your copyrights. At a certain point in the future, whether that's 18 months or 2 years or 3 years from now, when we have most of our customers using the online version, then we'll end support for that. But we do not have a date for that right now, and it's definitely not anytime soon. So just know that we'll continue to support that. The earliest possible date that we could end support for the second, or Lutheran Service Builder 2, would be next summer, and I don't anticipate that happening. The only way that'll happen is if we don't have customers left using it. So just know that you can still continue to use 2. All right, so let's continue to go through these questions. If I miss any, I do apologize. We've got a lot in here. All right, so there's where it started. Does GDPR require a license for YouTube's Played in Worship? GDPR is not about that. GDPR is about the information you store about people in your database, but GDPR is important for us in terms of how we updated the agreement, because we're storing your information, you as the signer. So that's what happens. But in terms of licenses, yes, in order to play videos in worship, you should have proper licenses in place. Now, that's what makes it difficult, because different copyright holders will work with different licenses. So I can't answer all those questions, but we do have a copyrights team that can help with that. But the licenses that you have with Lutheran Service Builder and HIM license will allow you to put these videos on YouTube in the context of your worship. So just know that that is available if you subscribe to that license. Now, understand there are some exceptions, and that's where the license agreement comes in to spell out those exceptions. So let's see, that was Brian who asked that. Linda, can you stream a license or stream a service live? The new license covers that, as long as everything that you're doing in the license is within Lutheran Service Builder and not one of those exceptions. If you're bringing in other songs or hymns or spiritual songs, however the verse goes, if you're bringing in outside music that falls under a different copyright, that is up to you to secure those permissions. So just keep that in mind. And Sarah asked, you said streaming isn't going to be available in Canada. Is the podcast video covered in Canada? I misspoke a little bit. I tried to backtrack as I was talking. There's certain hymns that, because they can't be streamed outside the US, they cannot be streamed, period. But those are spelled out in the license agreement. Everything else is available for streaming outside the US as well. So I misspoke on that. I tried to backtrack. It probably wasn't too clear. The license agreement is clear. So just take a look at that. But it's certain ones that, because they can't go outside the US, they can't be streamed. But there's only about 10 hymns in there. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Delvin Campbell says, can you at least try to get this far by faith added? I understand that basically only inner city Lutheran congregations use it, but still. Dylan, I think we've talked about that. That's a potential for the future, but right now our focus is on building up the new online Lutheran Service Builder with the latest functionality. Then we'll look at additional hymn books. It's just there's a lot that goes into it, and they might be very expensive because of copyrights. When we secured all the copyrights for Lutheran Service Book, it was part of those agreements with those copyright holders. Anything outside of that gets complicated and potentially very expensive for us and you. So that's why we haven't done that yet, but I do appreciate your feedback. All right, let's go through here. How do you enable a Mac? Obviously, you can't currently do the conversion steps from a Mac. Well, since we are only accepting current Lutheran Service Builder 2 subscribers with this early release, that's the only way forward. But that's because the Lutheran Service Builder 2 is only available with PCs, or if you're using a parallel. That's why we're sending everybody that way. Later this summer, we will open up for everybody. So if the only thing you have is a Mac right now, and you are a subscriber, then you might not be actually using it. But we will be making that available just starting from scratch for new customers later on this summer. So Matthew asked that. Matthew, I'm assuming that if you're using a Mac and you're using Lutheran Service Builder at your congregation, somebody has a PC. Once you start that process on the PC, then you can add Mac users to it, but you have to start in order to get that upload going. All right, Linda says, how do you download hymns that have the big C copyright on them? That is through our hymn license. There's two exceptions, I think, to that hymn license, but every other hymn is included within that. And so if you don't already have the hymn license, then we can work with you. The software consultants can help you with that at the time of the conversation. If you do have the hymn license and it is the big C, you should be able to export it. It shouldn't be showing that C if you have the hymn license set up. But it might be one of those two exceptions as well. But that's how you get rid of the big C, or how you export if you have the big C, I should say. All right, let's keep going. How would you choose a hymn paraphrase? For example, the Gloria Excelsis. Well, that's probably more complex than we're going to get into right now, but you should be able to insert that as an element. It could be used by different purposes. That's probably best to talk with our support team on that, because that'll take more than a few minutes to go through. So I'm going to keep going on those questions, Bradford. Sorry about that. All right, Brian, let's see. Will statistics be able to compare a congregation's usage to that of the LCMS, all churches using Builder? Well, technically speaking, we would be able to do that. From a privacy standpoint, that's not something that we've built into the agreement, so we don't have plans to do that right now. But technically speaking, we have the data available. But because of the privacy, we have not built that in. So Brian, thanks for that question. Yeah, hymn usage statistics you clarified in the next one. We aren't offering that right now, although that would be interesting. Many congregations would not be comfortable sharing that, and therefore we did not ask for the permission to share that. So we don't have that right to do that right now. All right. Larry's saying, can you add your own stanzas to a melody? In other words, can LSB Online engrave words to a melody from LSB? No, you cannot do that to an existing hymn. Now, you can create a new hymn if you have done the engraving, but Lutheran Service Builder is not an engraving software. And so it does not have that capability to do that. But you can, through My Worship Resources, create your own hymns if you have done the engraving. So Larry, thank you for that question. That's a good question. If it was purely a science, we might be able to do it. But my understanding of that through working with our music team here is there's much more of an art form to it than a science. Obviously, there's some rules that have to be followed, but it's not something that a computer can do automatically and do it well. All right, let's see. I sometimes do my planning at a retreat center that doesn't have internet access. Can I use the Lutheran Service Builder without going online? No, you can't, But if you have a mobile phone with an internet connection, you can do service planning from there. It's a fun experience to do service planning on your phone. That's the only thing you can do on your phone right now. You can't build out the whole bulletin, but you can access that, and it's a really smooth experience. But because it is online, there is no offline version of this version of Lutheran Service Builder. So if you do that a lot, you may be best using Lutheran Service Builder 2 still. We can't offer an online version without really writing a brand new software from scratch. All right. Jason's got your question about Let Us Pray answered. Like I mentioned, there will be a built-in thing later on. For those of you who are not aware, and yeah, we're already 5 minutes over. I do apologize for keeping you, but I've got a large group still, so I'll stay on. Let me go back to LutheranServiceBuilder.com. You can go down to the very bottom under Downloads, and you can download the prayer of the church for each specific Sunday. And you can see that here. It'll pop open in a second. There you go, 1 year, 3 year. Those files still work just fine on Lutheran Service Builder in the online version. We will have a better solution hopefully later on this year. So keep an eye out for that, but you can still continue to do it the same way you've been doing it right now. All right, let me see this. This is a lengthier one from Paul. Regarding the streaming podcast license, excluded items, will online builder identify them for us like the old builder notices you don't yet have permission to use, add this additional license? We've had a podcast license. Oh, let me answer that first question first. We will be adding that. That'll probably be added later on this month. We just found out about the exceptions on the development side recently. So we'll take care of that soon. Just know that it's all spelled out in the license agreement. So for right now, you will have to reference it before we do the full official launch. We will have that built in there. So during the early release, it won't be in there yet. You've had a podcast license since 2016. We were able to post to Facebook until 2018. The 2018 license said no Facebook. May we do live streaming Facebook, live streaming video on Facebook now? To my understanding of it, that is allowed with the new license agreement. Now, if you cancel or end your license agreement, you have to remove those recordings, and so that may be part of where that came in. And then can you add the Gloria Patri to Psalms now? Don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. That'll be one that we can follow up with later on. All right, let's see here. I know Tim's got more of those, so I'm going to get to the ones he hasn't gotten. How can I check to see what version of LSB I currently have? The best way to do it is just to go to Tools and check for updates. Otherwise, you can go to Help and Lutheran Service Builder, and it'll tell you which version you have right at the top. But I would just go to Tools, check for updates. That way, if there are updates, you can get them right then. Saves you a step. That was from Kelly. Can you take hymns from CCLI and import to LSB? Yes, you can. That's through the My Worship resources under My Hymns. You can do that. It's a longer process than I can show right now, but just to give you that, yes, you can do that. And there's a spot for you to enter in your CCLI license. So you can do that. All right. Larry is asking, will psalm tones and refrains be able to be imported into LSB Online from Hymnal Supplement 98 or other CPH music resources? Not right now. We're considering things for the future, but that's not in our immediate roadmap. So we've got several functionality things we want to add, like I mentioned before, the Creative Worship and Let Us Pray. Those are going to come first before we consider outside music, so outside of Lutheran Service Book. Will the new service builder allow you to save and print Word in DocX, or will you still be restricted to .doc Word 97 2003? James has already left, but for those of you who are here, yes, DocX files are supported, so you get the latest version of Word files, which can also be used in Pages or Google Docs too. It doesn't export directly to Google Docs, but you can upload them through there. All right, how many use? Oh, Tim's got those questions. Can one license.net be connected to Builder? Peter is asking that. Great name, Peter. Yes, you can when you go to export a hymn that is not already copied or one that you've brought in, or one that is not part of that authorization of hymn license, which if you don't have hymn license will be a lot of those. it'll give you the chance to plug in a separate license, and you can do that there. That copyright requirement's on you. We don't validate against OneNet licensed.net, but you can plug that in, and now that'll print out in your service folder. All right, and then let's see, the new system has access to the core elements on my local computer if the internet is down. Thomas is asking that. No, it will not. There's no offline mode of this. However, you could still use Lutheran Service Builder too. It just depends on what your internet is like. I think being that we are in 2018, I would hope that most churches have a good internet connection, but I know the contrary. I know there are many churches that still don't have that based on where they're located, based on what they can afford. So that's where we're continuing support for LSB2, because if your church is in one of those situations, you can't do the online version. That will still have the Lutheran Service Builder 2 available for you. And I think that got me through all the unanswered questions. I'm already 10 minutes over, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. If you had any other questions that I missed, I do apologize. I tried to go through that rather quickly, but I'm going to put this back up on screen, so I should have switched over to that. This is my contact information. The software consultants are there. Don't forget, set up a time with a software consultant to convert to the new online version. So thank you very much for being here today. I'm sorry I went over, but I hope you learned a lot and are eager and ready to get started with the online version. Thanks again, and have a great rest of the day. Goodbye.